Welcome to Session 16A, Service Agreements and Provider Edits. In this course, we will review and resolve provider edits by identifying the types of problems that can occur with provider numbers on the line items and how to resolve the problems. I'll use the F1, 4, and 5 keys. If you have not used MMIS before for service agreements, please refer to the previous sessions 1 through 5 for the MMIS introduction, logging in procedures, navigation, how to use the PF keys, and reviewing the recipient subsystem screens for eligibility information. We reviewed what service agreements are and the relationship to the screening document and claims in Session 14. How to inquire on saved service agreements in Session 15, and how to data enter a new service agreement and resolve other edits in Session 16. The MMIS provider subsystem contains all of the providers who have enrolled with the Department of Human Services through MMIS. The DHS Provider Enrollment Unit processes the application forms DHS 4050 and DHS 6338 submitted by the providers of waiver, alternative care, essential community supports, and Moving Home Minnesota services. These forms identify the services they provide and are qualified. This information, as well as other identifying data, is entered into the provider subsystem. The service agreement line item provider number and the case manager care coordinator certified assessor number is checked against the information in the provider subsystem. Edits will post if the provider record has missing or conflicting information. Since county, tribal, and managed care staff are not able to update or correct the provider records, please refer the provider for record changes to the MHCP Provider Call Center. The MMIS Manual DHS 4625 has this contact information along with extension numbers located near the beginning of the manual. Moving along to the MMIS screens, I've already entered the service agreement and use the F9 key. Let's review the edit line. Edit 140 is a reminder that the header and line item status are still in suspense. When the statuses are changed, the edits will be removed. Line 1 is for home delivered meals with edit 286 posting. Using the F1 key shows the title of the edit when the cursor is on the edit or status number. If you need more information, use the F4 key. A reference screen appears giving more details why the edit posted, where the problem is located, how to correct it, and if the edit is forcible. Some text is longer than the screen and the F7 and F8 keys are used. Also, notice that some instructions may be divided into more than one authorization type. The exit key F3 or F6 used once brings you back to the document. I use the F4 key while the cursor is on the provider number and advance to the PPGM screen by typing this in the next field in the top left side of the screen. The major programs that cover the service is shown at the bottom of the screen. The provider must be approved for the major program that the person is eligible. For persons open to the waiver program, there must be a MA for medical assistance on this line. For persons on the alternative care program, there must be an AC on this line. Persons open to the essential community supports program, there must be a UN on this line. Since our case is AC and there is no AC on the major program line, this provider cannot provide services to this person. I return to the service agreement using one of the exit keys, F3 or F6. I change the line item status to P to let the provider know on their letter that the service could not be approved. I also add reason code 866, which says providers must continue to be eligible for enrollment in order for authorizations to be valid. Now, line 2 is for adult day service, and edit 416 is posting. The edit title is shown and indicates that the provider is not in an active status. Placing the cursor on the provider's number and using the F4 key brings me to the provider's PSUM screen. I press the Control key again to advance to the PADD screen. See the enrollment line at the bottom of the screen. There are two statuses. The most recent status is a G for terminated no claims, and the date is prior to the service agreement's line item. If the line item period included the termination status date, you would have to adjust the line item so it did not. You can also check your records for the correct provider number. Perhaps there is more than one provider record with the same name. Using the F5 key can show you other providers. It is also possible that this is the correct provider, but the enrollment records have not been updated to a status of renewal. I use the exit keys to return to the service agreement. Since I cannot adjust the line item period, I can change the line item status to P for penned, and this line item will be placed on the provider's letter in appended status. I also add reason code 866. I use the F8 key to go to line number 3, and line 3 is for transportation. Edit 241 is posting because the provider type is not correct for this service. I'll move the cursor to the provider's number and use the F4 key. See that the provider type is 82 at the top of the screen. This number is being compared to the list of acceptable providers for this service. I use the F3 or F6 key to return to the service agreement. I now place the cursor on the procedure code and use the F4 key. A screen appears showing the list of acceptable providers, and value 82 is not included. This is why the edit is posting. The exit keys bring me back to the service agreement. Now, line 4 for home health aid does not have a provider number. I add the provider and press the F9 key to edit. The consolidated provider PPOP screen appears. This means that the provider number is a type 33 and more than one provider is grouped under it. We need to select the correct provider. There can be many providers on this screen. Using the F7 and F8 keys would allow you to see all of them. The information to review is the address, as in this case the providers have the same address, the phone number, there may be only one provider with the correct phone number, status, active or renewal statuses must be considered first, provider type, this field identifies the different types of providers and the choice can be narrowed down to the correct provider type. To select the provider, I place an X in front of the line and use the Control key. I am back at the service agreement. I use the F9 key to populate the line item with the provider that I selected. I have edit 412 posting against line number 4, indicating this provider does not have the correct category of service. I can try selecting another provider on the PPOP screen by typing in the first number of the provider number on the line item and pressing the F9 key. Using the Tab key, I move the cursor to provider number 2, place an X there, and press the Control key again to return to the service agreement. Using F9, the new provider is plugged into line number 4, but the same edit 412 is posting. I repeat the process to select the last provider. The same edit is posting against line number 4. I cannot resolve this edit because the provider's file is incomplete for this service. I changed the line item status to a P for pending, so a letter is sent to the provider that the service cannot be approved. More information about the consolidated provider screens can be found in Chapter 101.06 of the MMIS Manual DHS 4625. Using the F8 key, I move to line number 5. And my last two edits are posting against line number 5, edits 412 and 413. Edit 412 indicates that the provider's record does not have the correct category of service, COS, code for the service. Edit 413 is posting because the provider's record does not have the correct specialty and/or license codes for the service. First, double-check that the provider number is correct. There is one resource that identifies these codes for each service. The form DHS 6638 HCBS Programs Service Request is on eDocs. I show the form on the screen. Using the Control and F keys together brings up the Find box. I type in Family Caregiver and see that the COS code is 034, the specialty code is CT, and there are two license codes, HC and OR. Back on the service agreement, I use the F4 key while the cursor is on the provider number to navigate to the provider subsystem. I will check the category of service screen to see why Edit 412 is posting. I type in PCOS in the next field and press the Control key. This brings up a screen that can show different category of service codes and time periods. The code 034 is missing from the screen. Another reason for the edit to post is if the period does have code 034, but there is an ending date on the span and the line item begins after this ending span. The license types are on the PLIC screen. It follows this screen, so I press the Control key to advance. There is one license on this screen. A couple of reasons why the license type would post Edit 413 are: the needed license type is missing, the license type is present, but the state field is not MN or XX. The begin date is dated after the line item begin date. The specialty codes are on the PPGM screen. Edit 413 is also checking this screen. This provider has no specialty codes. If the service specialty code was on this screen, it would have to cover the entire line item period. If the same code is on the screen under more than one period, the line item cannot overlap more than one period. When the DHS provider enrollment staff ends the category of service, specialty code, or license code on the provider's record, and that provider is listed on a waiver, AC, or ECS service agreement, the line items under service agreements will automatically be changed in these ways. The pended or approved line items which end after the code ends will have recent code 858 added, generating a letter to the person, case manager, and that provider. The message indicates that the provider record was changed and attention is needed. Approved lines beginning after the current date of the record change will be changed to a pending status. Recent code 858 is added, and letters to the provider, person, and case manager is sent. Suspended lines will post the appropriate edit when the service agreement is entered in the change mode, or a new service agreement or line item is added. The change service agreement is placed on a daily report, PWMW 9332-R2086. Service agreements for providers with category service and or specialty codes ended. This report can be found on InfoPack. See Automotive MMIS Changes to Provider Records in Chapter 301.12 of the Manual for Service Agreements and Report Instructions. This is the only notification that a service agreement was changed and a provider will not be paid until the record is corrected. In summary, to review line item provider edits, you need to double-check the provider number. It just might be wrong. Use the F4 key while the cursor is on the line item provider number to view the information on the provider screens that is posting the edit. Check for missing values in the line item period against the enrollment status, major program, category of service, license, and specialty periods. You may have to adjust the line item period. Use the F5 key to search on the provider's name. Perhaps there is more than one provider with the same name. I will show you how to use the F5 key. When I press it now, this screen appears. It allows me to type in the provider name at the top section or a person's name at the bottom half of the section. Placing a person's name on the recipient name fields and pressing the F4 key would bring me to the selection screen for the recipient subsystem to view information on people who are not on the screening document or service agreement. The exit keys then bring me back to the document. Instead, if you add the name of a provider at the top half of the screen and press the F4 key, it will bring you to the provider subsystem selection screen to find the correct provider. You may see more than one entry for the same name. Use the information on the selection screen to select the correct provider. The F7 and F8 keys will scroll on the list. You cannot change any information on the MMIS provider screens. The provider must contact the MHCP Provider Call Center if information is invalid, missing, or not updated on their file. The line item can remain in suspense or pended until the record is corrected. Add recent code 866 to the pended line items. Moving to the ASA1 screen, the provider subsystem is also used for edits, checking the case manager number field on the ASA1 screen. If the field is left blank, edit 114 will post. If a new case manager was assigned and their start date on the PADD screen is after the service agreement begins, edit 289 will post. In this scenario, you can force edit 289. This concludes our session on the service agreement provider edits. If you have comments or questions regarding this content, please use the survey on the Aging training page.